Todo mundo são jogadores que eu sempre joguei no FIFA e agora
A rising force from Brazil surged into football with 21 goals in 82 games for Palmeiras, powering his way into a $64 million move to Real Madrid before most players his age even touch senior football. His ascent felt unstoppable, electric, fearless, explosive. But destiny didn't roll out a red carpet. In Madrid, he ran into the hard walls of injury setbacks, a spotlight dominated by Kylian Mbappé, and the sting of watching 6 straight matches from the bench. The pressure built until it cracked, spilling out in a flash of frustration that sent a water bottle skidding across the turf and headlines exploding. This is the world of Endrick Felipe. Brilliance battling adversity, promise colliding with reality, and a young star carving his legacy in real time. Let's jump into the story shaping football's next phenomenon. In sun-drenched Taguatinga, where the streets hum like a restless drumline, Endrick Felipe Moreira de Souza arrived in July 2006, a small spark in a crowded house with one brother and 2 sisters. Hardship came early and often. His father, Douglas, chased footballing chances across Brasilia like a man sprinting after a train already pulling out of the station, while his mother, Cynthia, fought to keep the family afloat. When work vanished and the money turned to dust, Endrick and his siblings spent months in a São Paulo orphanage, learning how to be brave before they learned how to be tall. Salvation didn't arrive with fanfare. It came as a mop and a paycheck. His parents found work in a fluorescent-lit cafe beneath the city. Then Douglas took a janitor's job at Palmeiras, close enough to football that the air itself seemed to taste of grass. Through it all, Endrick clung to the ball. At 4, he was already dribbling through stones and legs in dusty lots, his father filming every flash of talent like catching lightning in a jar. Online, those goals became beacons, faint at first, then brighter. Endrick's dreams fixed on Real Madrid, glimmering in his imagination like a stadium under floodlights. He studied Cristiano Ronaldo's movements, rehearsing them until they felt like second nature, and even trained at a local Madrid camp at 8, just a breath of the future, but enough to make the present feel possible. Endrick Felipe didn't so much step into professional football as strike it like flint, sparks flying the night he debuted for Palmeiras in a 4-0 win over Coritiba on October 6, 2022. A teenager ushered onto Brazil's biggest stage as if destiny had reserved him a seat in the spotlight. His ascent had been building since the Copinha 2022, where he scorched through the tournament, delivering Palmeiras' first ever title and leaving with the supporters' player of the tournament crown. Proof, as bright as stadium floodlights, that the boy's talent traveled like a comet. What followed felt inevitable. Folded into a senior squad already surging, he helped Palmeiras seal the Serie A in 2022 and then do it again in 2023, his impact arriving in decisive bursts, like thunder after heat. Trophies kept pace with his growth. The Supercopa do Brasil in 2023, then the Campeonato Paulista in successive campaigns, 2022/23 and 2023/24. Each medal another rung on a ladder he climbed 2 steps at a time. By the end of that chapter, he had stacked 21 goals in 82 senior games, numbers that sounded older than the date on his passport. The yellow shirt came next, as if drawn to him by gravity. In November 2023, at 17 years, 3 months, 27 days, he became Brazil's 4th youngest senior debutant, and the youngest in 57 years, walking into the Seleção like a new stanza in a very old song. Europe, watchful as ever, didn't hesitate. Real Madrid signed him in July 2024, and the teenager crossed the Atlantic to a club where ambition is measured in silver. Before 20, he had already hoisted the UEFA Super Cup and the FIFA Intercontinental Cup in 2024/25. Early proofs that he wasn't in Spain merely to learn the language of winning. He was fluent. Development, though, needs minutes, like a flame needs air. In 2026, he joined Olympique Lyon on loan, sharpening edges in League One while remaining bound to Madrid's horizon. Another arena, another set of puzzles, the same relentless intent. If you trace the arc back to its first flicker, you find him topping the CBF Brasileiro U20 final scoring chart in 2021/22, a hint of the avalanche to come. youth silverware, domestic dominance, continental medals, and an international debut that felt like a coronation. Some careers gathered dust waiting for their moments. Endrick's gathered moments like magnets, Copina glory and acclaim, twin Serie A crowns, a Supercopa, consecutive Paulistas, European Cups in Madrid, and a Lyon detour that reads like a whetstone. He moves through the game the way lightning hunts a path, sudden, bright, and certain, each strike reminding you that the storm is only getting started. Let's take a look at his personal life. Endrick Felipe's love story began far from stadium lights, in a quiet Brazilian mall, where Gabriele Miranda, a model unaware of his rising fame, noticed him like a spark in a dim room, drawn to his confidence before she even knew his name. A playful bet, Cuiabá defeating Botafogo, sealed their fate. When the team won, so did their new relationship, beginning as suddenly and sharply as a coin striking stone. By 2023, the two were officially together, weathering scrutiny over their age gap with the stubborn strength of a young couple determined to stand firm. She accompanied him to Madrid, and when he scored at the Bernabeu, he ran straight toward her, shaping a heart with his hands, as if she were the beacon guiding every victory. Their bond deepened through a heartfelt, unusual relationship contract, a promise to avoid cold replies, online flirtations, and to say, "I love you no matter what," a pact that kept them grounded while fame swirled around them like a restless storm. In September 2024, at just 18, Endrick married Gabriele in a quiet civil ceremony, a choice as bold as it was intimate. A year later, they married again, a full celebration where their vows shone like polished glass, confirming what they already knew. Their love wasn't a chapter in his career, but a parallel story growing just as fiercely. Through transfers, pressure, and global attention, she remained his anchor, training with him, traveling with him, cheering through every high and low, while he spoke openly of wanting a family young, a life built with presence and intention. And just as quickly as the spotlight found him, so did the fortune. Endrick Felipe's relationship with money began long before he ever earned a cent. Growing up with scarcity taught him exactly what wealth meant, and when it finally arrived, it didn't tiptoe into his life, it flooded in, rising as swiftly as a tide during a storm. By 19, the once struggling boy had become a young millionaire, his net worth soaring to $12.4 to $15 million, built from salaries, bonuses, endorsements, and early investments. His leap to Real Madrid lit the fuse. The club didn't just sign a teenager, they ignited his financial future. In Spain, he earned €4.16 million a year, a staggering figure for someone barely out of adolescence. And even when Madrid sent him to Lyon on loan, the money trailed him faithfully. At 19, he collected €35,000 per week, rising to nearly €43,654 with bonuses, ending the season with €2.27 million in earnings, numbers that grew as naturally for him as goals did. By then, his cumulative salary had crossed €4.3 million, an amount that would have once seemed like fiction. But Endrick's fortune wasn't built on wages alone. Brands flocked to him the way moths flock to a bright flame, drawn to his charisma, youth, and global appeal. His endorsement empire expanded across 8 major brands and 15 product categories, pulling him into industries ranging from skincare to electronics, medication to video games, fashion to banking. Deals with giants like EA Sports FC, Natura, and Neosaldina showcased his market power, while partnerships with New Balance, Red Bull, and Disney elevated him into a commercial favorite. Behind the spotlight, he made moves as sharp as his footwork, quietly stepping into investments. Some collaborations offered him more than a payday. They gave him equity stakes, letting him earn not just as a face of brands, but as part owner. Back home in Brazil, he even funneled money into youth academies, supporting rising talent while creating long-term opportunities, an investment as strategic as it was sentimental. And then came the power of influence. With over 13 million followers, social media became another revenue stream, his posts carrying the weight of a global athlete whose every move could stir millions. Each appearance, each photo, each storyline became another chance to turn attention into income. Now, let's take a ride in his garage. The boy who once relied on buses now moves through the world surrounded by horsepower, each car in his orbit reflecting a new stage of his transformation, as if every ignition switch marks another chapter in his ascent. The first true symbol of that shift is his BMWXM, chosen through Real Madrid's partnership with BMW. It suits him perfectly. A hybrid titan with a twin-turbo V8 and electric motor, unleashing over 650 horsepower. A machine that feels less like transportation and more like a living creature roaring to be unleashed. Priced at roughly $159,000 to $170,000 US, it is a reminder of how far he has traveled from the narrow streets of Taguatinga. Balancing that fury is something quieter, the BMW i7 M70, an all-electric luxury sedan that glides like a whisper over glass. Yet beneath its silence lies another 650 horsepower, launching it from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.7 seconds, powered by a battery that fast charges with the efficiency of a lightning strike. At $168,500 US, it shows a young star drawn not just to power, but to elegance and innovation. Still, Endrick is not only a collector of speed. His Mercedes-Benz V-Class reveals the quieter truth of who he is, a family-centered young man who values space and comfort as much as style. This luxury van, priced between $65,000 and $85,000 USD, moves like a rolling lounge, offering him calm in the middle of football's growing chaos. But the most surprising chapter in his automotive story sits far from his garage. In 2024, Endrick gifted his ex-girlfriend a $20,000 car wrapped in a red ribbon, a gesture that stunned fans. It wasn't extravagance, it was gratitude, a young man acknowledging someone who stood by him long before the world learned his name, like leaving a bookmark in a chapter he had outgrown but never forgotten. And though his collection is still small compared to football's seasoned icons, each car mirrors a different piece of his evolution. The XM's roar, the i7's grace, the V-Class's warmth, and the gift that carried memory instead of ego. His garage isn't just about luxury. It is a reflection of a life accelerating forward, a life that once crawled but now races, as if every engine echoes the truth. But as his fame swells and his fortune rises, another question quietly emerges, like a shadow following a spotlight. Where does a future legend choose to live? For Endrick Felipe, that answer begins far from the chaos of stadium crowds and much closer to the hush of Madrid's most guarded gates. In La Finca, the city's crown jewel of exclusivity, homes don't just sit behind walls. They loom like modern castles carved from concrete and steel. Even the modest properties here carry a kind of quiet grandeur, with semi-detached villas priced around 2.4 to 4.2 million euros. Their private pools glimmering under the Spanish sun like mirrors waiting to reflect a new chapter. Move deeper into the enclave and the air changes. The villas rise taller, wider, estates that feel less like houses and more like worlds of their own. Some list for 5.7 million euros, offering lush gardens, open-air lounges, and interiors so polished they seem sculpted. Others stretch into full-scale luxury kingdoms worth 12 to 13 million euros, complete with home cinemas, spas, multi-car garages, and rooms designed for unseen comfort. These places don't merely shelter their owners, they wrap around them like velvet cloaks, guarding their lives from the world outside. Just beyond La Finca, Pozuelo de Alarcón spreads out in quiet opulence. Mansions rise among old trees and long driveways, each property spaced like a private island. Here, homes breathe with a different rhythm, elegance softened by nature, luxury cushioned by calm. Prices drift between 7.3 million euros and 10.6 million euros, depending on how grand the estate and how sweeping the land. These are the kinds of places where mornings unfold over terraces and nights settle softly across sculpted stone. Does Endrick own one yet? No reliable source confirms it, but the market around him tells its own story. The gates of La Finca open easily for players with his level of income. The keys to a 4 million euro haven or a 12 million euro fortress sight well within reach. He stands exactly where many Real Madrid greats once stood, on the threshold, surveying a landscape built for kings. In Madrid's Golden Mile, where storefronts gleam like treasure chests, luxury is less a treat than a rhythm. Stars at his level drift into Cartier, Dior, and Louis Vuitton as casually as others step into cafes, and diamond-set watches ranging from €30,000 to €80,000, with rare black sapphire pieces exceeding €150,000, sit comfortably within reach for a player backed by multiple brand deals. Endorsements with giants like New Balance keep his wardrobe camera ready. Italian wool suits, bespoke jackets, and hand-stitched shoes that turn red carpet appearances into €5,000 to €12,000 ensembles. Perfect for Madrid's image-driven scene, where cameras circle him like moths drawn to flame. Even his downtime moves in rarefied air. Business class is routine. Private charters, €8,000 to €15,000 per flight hour, are a quick phone call away. Weekend escapes drift toward Ibiza or Mykonos, where beachfront villas run €5,000 to €20,000 a night, and a mid-tier yacht costs €6,000 to €10,000 a day. With his salary and growing market power, he now flows effortlessly through the same jet-set currents that carry Europe's elite. Inside Real Madrid circles, the extras multiply. Gold Cuban links and black diamond bracelets, €10,000 to €50,000. Recovery tech, €2,000 to €20,000. Limited edition sneakers, €1,000 to €5,000. And collector fragrances from Creed to Roja, €250 to €700. For him, these aren't indulgences anymore. They're simply the atmosphere he breathes. And with income streaming from club contracts, his Lyon loan spell, and global endorsements, high-end living isn't a stretch, it's the baseline. Now let's get a little bit deeper with the controversy. Endrick Felipe arrived at Real Madrid with expectations as heavy as armor, signed for $64 million after scoring 21 goals for Palmeiras and earning a reputation as Brazil's next great prodigy. But his dream move quickly tangled with reality when Kylian Mbappé's explosive form, 11 goals in 10 games, blocked his path like a towering giant, overshadowing a rising flame. A hamstring injury stalled his momentum, allowing Gonzalo Garcia to shine at the Club World Cup with 4 goals in 6 matches, pushing Endrick further down the hierarchy. By autumn, he endured 6 straight matches without playing a single minute, repeatedly warming up only to return to the bench. His frustration finally surfaced against Getafe when, after being overlooked yet again, he kicked a water bottle, a flash of anger that drew media attention and reportedly displeased Xabi Alonso. Critics questioned Madrid's handling of him, noting how peers like Arda Güler thrived under consistent opportunities. With his World Cup hopes slipping, loan talks accelerated. Lyon emerged with a proposed deal, featuring a rare clause penalizing the club if Endrick didn't receive enough minutes. Sevilla, said to have the greatest interest, and Marseille also positioned themselves as potential lifelines away from Madrid's bench. Throughout the turmoil, Endrick admitted that fame was overwhelming, the spotlight feeling less like praise and more like exposure. Now, standing at a crossroads, he remains a brilliant talent caught between expectation and opportunity, his future hanging like a story paused at the edge of its turning point. Endrick Felipe moves through a world of luxury, custom suits, diamond watches, private flights, and sun-drenched island escapes, living like a star carved from pure ambition. His rise is only beginning, and the spotlight is growing brighter by the day. Hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories just like this.